Hello, everyone, and welcome into debate night yet again. I'm Hunter, joined by Brodie at Maple Hill, Massachusetts. No Silas this week; he's got class, but we're here.
Yeah, what the heck is Silas doing?
I don't know.
He's got class all the time now. We might have to film this on. We might have to start filming these on Monday. So you have class on Monday?
No, he's here all day Mondays.
Okay. We might have to film this on Monday because really there's not much news that drops between like Monday and Tuesday.
No, it's just normally Monday's your travel day. It was the only reason we did Tuesday, but it is what it is. It'd be nice to have
just
Silas
around the corner.
That's true. We're basically there.
We're getting close.
Speaking of travel days, obviously you just traveled from Vermont to Maple Hill. And last week we weren't able to hear quite yet what you thought of the Vermont courses, what they were like. And now we can also hear about how the tournament went. So walk us through the courses first. What do you think of the courses up there?
Yeah, obviously last time I had just gotten I don't even think I had left yet.
No, you were still in Dallas. Yeah.
I was still in Dallas. Yeah. So I just went up there and basically had one practice day. I played both courses the same day to kind of just obviously get a little bit of a feel for it before the tournament started. And honestly, really awesome. And I think some people took what I was saying incorrectly, I guess, in the practice round video that we did out there.
Okay.
I was basically saying like the one thing that is really difficult with disc golf right now with attracting more spectators and attracting more fans to the actual live event, which I think is crucial. I think actually having people at the live events is very important. The best courses for disc golf right now are in very remote locations.
Yes.
So that was what I was trying to say is if you could take what GMC is, those courses, and obviously the mountains in the background and all that stuff at Fox Run is incredible. But like Brewster, for example, I could not tell that I was in, a mountainous area in Brewster. Like you could have thrown me anywhere and that would feel the same. But for obviously Fox Run, a lot of the appeal of that course is the actual natural beauty that it surrounds it. So obviously this would affect that a little bit, but as far as just the golf complex, if you just lifted that up and then threw that in a Metroplex, and this is where I'll push back a little bit too with some people, because some people are like, well, you were complaining about Emporia, Kansas, like being too loud and all that. And like, first off, Emporia, Kansas, not a Metroplex. Second off, yeah, it was right next to a highway.
Yeah.
Like you can go to tons and tons of nice golf country clubs that, by the way, are on much larger, much more vast land than what a disc golf course requires. And you'd have no idea you were in a Metroplex. Like they do a good job of either, lining the entire property with trees or basically setting the course inside and then having like a big buffer around. Now, obviously some courses are different than that, but my whole point was like, this would probably be the best course complex, and it wouldn't even be close if it was just moved to a bigger place that fans could come. Because it's just, you have to fly into a small airport, and then it's like an hour drive.
Yeah.
And you're also just basically and this stuff matters too, as far as like fans and spectators. This stuff matters. Like not a lot of hotel choices, not a lot of food options. Very expensive too, because you're like basically in a resort area. So that I just want to get that off the top. Like I think some people misunderstood what I was trying to say.
Yeah. But
going back to the actual courses, like definitely two of the best I've played on. Brewster, could it be longer and could Fox be longer? Sure. That would be probably one thing that they could definitely change. And again, this is something that I think as players start throwing further and further and further, they can kind of hopefully lengthen some of these holes. The only thing I would say I wouldn't really change anything other than maybe lengthen some holes on Brewster. The only thing I would say with Fox is I just don't think they utilize the water as much there. There's not is there only one lake? I'm trying to think. there might only be one lake that we kind of play around, or there might be 2 lakes. But regardless, that's one of those things where there's a couple holes. Did you watch coverage a decent amount?
Yeah.
Okay, so hole 10. So after the really difficult par 3, hole 9 is like the 470-foot par 3 straight down. Hole 10 is a pretty forgettable hole because it's just for right-handed forehand players, it's just a basic hyzer 315-foot shot. And pretty much everyone was birdieing that hole. I think that is a perfect example of a hole of where, again, this kind of goes to money and all that stuff. But if they were able to like build a lake, put a lake in before that to where it was like a water carry, similar to like a hole 16 at Emporia or a hole 8 at Maple Hill, one of those par 3s, I think all of a sudden that hole gets a lot more interesting than right now. It's kind of just a hole that gets you from hole 9 to hole 11.
Yeah.
So that would be the only thing as far as additions. But when it comes to the courses at a hole, I think this would have been, and this is where Worlds will be next year. I think this is a much better indicator of an overall disc golf champion because you have to have both skill sets. The only thing, again, that I'll say that I think it's missing is length.
Yeah.
And I think length is something that is important. It is a skill set. And I'm not saying let's go crazy and we need to have these insane far holes. But I do think maybe one of the reasons why this makes this tournament currently as it is as exciting of a finish is it basically no one gets counted out. Because like some of these other longer courses, some people just haven't developed or can't throw as far to compete there. And Fox does, I would say Fox does have a lot of good par 3s that have good length. Like the 470, it's downhill, so you really only have to throw 400 feet. But it's still a good par 3. Hole 5 is a great par 3. That's a 430-foot shot downhill with the water on the left, and you get that little gap to 10 width, and the OB comes in there on the right. But like hole 1 is short, hole 2 is short, hole 3 is short, hole 4 is short. There are a lot of like kind of in-betweeners when it comes to like the par 4s. And one thing too, thinking about just like as the world championship goes, it's one of those where I think you do now have enough players throwing at that elite distance to where I think that also will build in more of a score separation. Because like the best stretch on that course, Fox Run, 7, 8, 9. 7's that par 5. If you get if one of your throws is kind of off, you can either be OB or you have to kind of play for a par. Hole 8, I played for par. I literally went chip, layup, putt for par, just because of how difficult that hole is. And I can still mess up. I almost went OB on one of my shots. So I kind of just ranted on about differences there. And this is where I think like Worlds, this is how I think Worlds could set itself apart. And I don't know if we want to go into like the quote that Ricky had where he was talking about what a world champion is and being best in the world. But this is where these are things that I would love to see coming back there next year, of them being like, hey, we are ramping this up a little bit for Worlds, because then, like I've always said, it makes it to where a really good shot, a great shot, there's actually a difference between that and a good shot.
Yeah.
Where right now, I always go back to Toboggan, for example. Like Toboggan, if that course added OB to a lot of those holes, I think my placement, where I finished 9th, I think I could have easily seen myself finishing like 30th. Because there was a lot of times where I was kind of, spraying it off the tee a little bit, but it didn't really matter. Other people that were throwing great shots in the fairway, I was throwing like a good shot way off to the right, or not even a good shot, like an okay shot. We were both birdieing the hole. So again, this kind of goes against maybe a little bit of my favor. I would probably be, as far as my skill set right now, I would definitely favor more of an open course without that much OB to where I can just spray it and still score. But I think for the purpose of Worlds, I think that's one key identifier that they can kind of separate themselves is like, yeah, you guys played GMC last year, but this is the World Championship,
got some teeth.
and we buffed up the courses.
Yeah. I mean, Ricky's take, obviously, I think because the time he had the take made a lot of people just not really listen to it, because it's like, well, of course you don't want Worlds to be the way Worlds is because you just lost, which is completely fair.
If he would have said it after one of his World Championships, I think it would have held a lot more weight.
Yeah, exactly. But what he's saying, I think it's what Trevor and I think we've talked about it, have said so many times. It's like,
we've always said it.
If you're going to have someone be a world champion and that's the title they're going to hold, there's got to be something that separates that from a normal tournament. Because, like, realistically, we were a putt on 17 away from Aaron Gossage being a world champion. There's nothing wrong with Aaron Gossage winning a major. I have no problem against that. But people are taking my tweet the wrong way a lot of times. Like, him being a major champion, I love the fact that an underdog can win a major championship. I love the fact that an underdog can win a Pro Tour event, all of that. Problem is, world champion, that title holds so much weight in disc golf that, like, if I walked up to my sister who doesn't play disc golf and I was like, oh, yeah, the world champ this year was Aaron Gossage, she thinks he's the best player in the world. When in reality, the week before that, he finished like 60th place. And, like, that's where it struggles with me, is like, that title just holds so much weight even outside the realm of disc golf that, like, I think it's got to be more than just we add one round to a tournament, or, you know, we play the same courses we play all year, whatever. I think there's got to be something more.
The other thing I would say, as I try to adjust this chair, sorry, I thought GMC played more difficult of a. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Am I still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Your video went away, so
sorry.
I didn't know if we lost it. Just normal internet stuff over here at the hotel. But yeah, like I thought GMC was more difficult of a tournament because it required both styles of disc golf, right?
Yeah.
It required you to play good in the woods, and it required you to play good in the open. And this is I just came up with this right here.
Okay.
What if, and some people are going to hate this take, but this is a good way of making the World Championships set itself apart from everything else. Champions Cup, woods, right? USDGC, out in the open with lots of OB. European Open, mostly out in the open. There are a couple wooded holes, but mostly out in the open, lots of OB. So what if the World Championship basically was the not only major, only tournament that had you play both woods and both open? So Ledgestone, no longer are you going to Lake Eureka and Northwoods. You're only playing one. And heck, we can go back to Ledgestone twice. We can play a Northwoods for one tournament and then play Lake Eureka for another. Honestly, I think a lot of people would probably just do away with Lake Eureka. It's kind of one of those courses that not that many people like. So I could just see them just having Ledgestone being Northwoods Black.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other courses. GMC is another one where obviously they have both courses, but maybe you just make that tournament Brewster.
I don't know though,
and not Fox Run.
That makes all those tournaments.
I know it
worse.
takes away. I know it makes those tournaments worse. That's the tricky thing. I know it makes this tournament worse, and that's where is there a world where that ever makes sense? Because if that was the case, though, like if you could just remove your memory of all these amazing tournaments with both courses, and you're like, the World Championship has you play both styles, and it's the only tournament that has you play both styles, wouldn't that just set it apart so much more than every other tournament? Because when we're playing, and players will say this, like, it is really difficult now to have like a distinction between a major and a disc golf pro tour event.
Yeah.
Because everyone's just playing in the same, like the field doesn't change.
It's all the same.
It's all the same. So unless the courses get super buffed up to where we're like, wow, this is really a step up. But that's also like the Disc Golf Pro Tour. It's not like every Disc Golf Pro Tour stop is kind of like this level playing field of difficulty, and then we go to a major and it's harder. Yeah. Like the European Open course would not be probably in my top 5 of most difficult courses we played on tour this year. So that's a tricky one too. But I know it's a terrible take, and people are gonna be like, "That's stupid. You just made all these tournaments that are awesome way worse." Yeah. I was just throwing it out as an idea of like if that was like a drastic change, then I think what you were saying of like, yeah, this person is the world champion. Because I just saw something on my Instagram where one of my buddies that's a skimboarder, he was at the world championship or whatever and was interviewing the girl that just won the world championship for like skimboarding. So like I don't know anything about skimboarding. I'm assuming that's the best skimboarder in the world. Exactly. But
she's a rando.
that very well could have just be someone that had a really good weekend that week.
Exactly.
And someone else has literally won every single tournament.
Well, because skimboarding, I feel like would be similar to what disc golf was when the World Championship first came together, which there's like putting the title World Championship in skimboarding probably means everyone comes together.
Everyone's there.
So you have to beat. Mm-hmm. That was the World Championship. Now, Worlds in disc golf, everyone's there every weekend. So there might be some more players from Japan, Australia, Finland that come over for the World Championship, but it's not a drastic difference versus a normal field. I personally,
if Ricky wins out, right? If Ricky goes MVP, Tour Championship, USDGC, he is by and far clear than. I mean, honestly, like if Simon wins out,
if Simon or Rick wins out, or if Paul wins out, I would say.
I was excluding Paul because Paul won the World Championship.
I would say if Ricky just wins USDGC because he has 4 wins on the season right now. If he has 4 wins plus a major USDGC, so 5 wins on the season and 1's a major, that's a better season, I think. So I think he's the better player in the world.
Would this be crazy too? What if Calvin won out? Would he be the best player in the world?
I don't think. Well, it depends. The Tour Championship in its current format is set up for that. I don't really want to consider that towards best players in the world because, like, it's set up in a way that if someone gets hot,
just the Tour Championship.
Yeah, and then I don't know if MVP and USDGC is enough to tip it in Calvin's favor. It would be close. Okay, it'd be very close.
You'd only be counting. Yeah, you'd only be counting those 2.
Yeah, so it'd be very close.
I was just trying to think if there was someone else because the only ones that else have won. I mean, you could do Isaac Robinson. He's already won. Well, no, Calvin's won, right?
Calvin's won one.
Calvin won Jonesboro.
Yeah.
So he'd be the same boat as, well, I would say his average finishes are way higher than Isaac because Isaac kind of joined Tour.
Isaac goes kind of all over. Yeah. I think the solution, in my mind, to Worlds is the Tour Championship changes its format and becomes the World Championship or World Champion. Sorry. Yeah, World Championships. And basically, it just goes FedEx Cup style. Because, like, to me, that makes sense. You play all season. You have your points. Going into the Tour Championship, instead of it being this bracket thing, everyone's just set with a stroke advantage based on where they finish in points. So it tips it in the favor where the best player in the world is more likely to win, but there's still the chance for someone in the top 5 or 10 to overcome that deficit. And then it makes it where if someone from way back does it, could it happen? Sure. Very unlikely, and it would be a crazy story. But it tips it in the favor to where going into the World Championship now, your season-long points mean something. What you did all season means something. So now if you're Ricky and you have the most points going into the World Championship, you have a stroke lead over Paul going into round 1. That stroke lead could go away after round 1, sure. But now you have a 10-stroke lead over, or realistically, Ricky over Aaron Gossage might have a 12-stroke lead going into round 1.
Here,
I like that.
You know what? I think you brought up a good point with what you just said with skimboarding, of how it probably is very similar in the sense of like world chip, like similar to what disc golf was years ago, of where like the World Championship was where they basically just had everyone come together because the tournaments and stuff were sporadic, or maybe a big tournament was going on here and a big tournament was going on here at the same time, and so it's getting separated. There wasn't like a tour necessarily. And now I'm starting to think, like, is that just a niche sport?
Yes,
thing?
absolutely.
Is a world championship just a niche sport thing of like where once the sport gets big enough, there isn't a world championship anymore? I'm trying to think of a sport that's like really big that doesn't have.
People will claim like there's like the World Cup in soccer. There's like the FIBA. I think they might call it World Championship. I don't know what they call it in basketball.
Well, World Cup is way different because that's the Olympics. That you're playing on you're playing with you're playing with players. Like players are coming from
their country,
different teams to play as a country. So that's way different.
But like when you go individual sport, unless I'm mistaken, I don't really think there's one. I mean, people would consider, like I saw some people claiming like the Masters is the most prestigious title in golf, but it's not. They don't call them a world champion.
But that also depends on. We've talked about this before. If you were born and raised in Europe, the European
British Open,
the Open is the one that you won. So that's all very dependent on where you are, kind of the situation. Yeah. But that's an interesting one, and I would love if you guys are listening right now. Let us know if there are some sports that have world championships, but also have like a tour of where like everyone is playing in these events and stuff, because it might just be one of those things of where as sports kind of grow and get out of that phase, they kind of go away from that setup of where it's like this tournament is the one and be all, and all these other tournaments that we do don't matter nearly as much as this tournament.
Yeah, it's just a tough one because like
I can't think of a sport right now, like a big sport. I can't think of one. Well, because
like basketball
that has something like that.
NBA people consider them world champions, but it's not called the World Championships. It's the NBA Finals, and then it also
but there's nothing else. But it's also there's nothing else though, Hunter.
No, that's it. It just builds up to that. It's not like there's
nothing else.
It's not tournaments.
You can't say that
going on all year.
No one cares if you're no one cares if you had the best regular season. Like there's nothing else. Like that's our issue with disc golf is there are I'm just going to try not to hit the desk because people are saying don't do that. That was really bad. Apologize for all our listeners on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's where like the distinction of like winning, like what is the difference between winning a world championship at Emporia and winning USDGC at Winthrop? Like, in my opinion, both those courses are going to play fairly similar. They're going to basically have the same exact people at both courses. The fields are going to be very similar. The pressure is going to be very similar. So it's like there is no distinction really in between those two, but some people look at worlds. And so like to Ricky's point, I do understand a little bit. Obviously, the timing was terrible. Yeah. Would he say it if he would have won? Probably not. Would he have said that if Paul didn't win? Probably not. But I do a little bit understand how, the Pro Tour is building all this stuff all year about points and points and points and points. And this we can maybe go into this a little bit because I think there are some things going on with the Disc Golf Pro Tour playoff system that might be watering it down. And I'd be curious to hear from you because I don't even know if you've thought about this or all these things of what you think. So the first one is there are actually qualifiers for GMC and MVP.
Makes no sense.
And it's not qualifiers too of like, oh, these are the last 10 people that didn't make the points. Anyone can qualify. So you could sign up right now to play this morning at MVP to try to get in. And I like the qualifier system for certain things. And I'm even going to actually push back right now and say, I actually don't like how the USDGC does qualifying before the tournament. I think you have, and this is my same take on GMC and MVP. You have qualifiers for GMC and MVP. You have qualifiers essentially all season. And at the beginning of the season, we all understand that you have to accumulate these points to get into these events. And if you don't accumulate enough points, you shouldn't be getting into these events.
Correct.
USDGC has decided at the beginning of the season, these are the tournaments that we're going to pick that if you place well in, you qualify for an event. If you don't go to those tournaments, or if you don't place well in those tournaments, you do not qualify for USDGC. Now, obviously, USDGC also has a bunch of other ways of qualifying, which I'm fine with, right? If you win the event, if you get if you win a event, I think, if you were top 10 the year before, they have other things like that. That makes sense. But what I will say is I would love to see like a qualifier system outside of the Pro Tour, because I understand there are really good players that can't necessarily travel maybe maybe there isn't a qualifier near them, right? And it doesn't make financial sense, but they do want to try. So what I think would be sick, and obviously there's a lot more work for Innova to do, so I don't know if it would actually happen, but what I would think would be sick is instead of the day before where you could pay money, show up, shoot one good round and you're in, I think it'd be cool to have like regional qualifying tournaments, essentially. And so have one in the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, South, whatever. Have them all over the place, and have it be like maybe just 2 weeks long. So everyone can go, local pros, everyone can go to the first one, top 20 or whatever, 30 qualify for the next weekend. And then those go, and then like the top 2 from there get in. Yeah. And then that way you can get people that necessarily aren't touring pros. You can get some of those local pros to get into USDGC. I think that would be kind of like a cool way of doing it, versus what is more than likely going to happen is touring pros that did not qualify for USDGC are going to show up on Monday. And basically now if you're for example, if you are going to try to qualify on Monday, you're going to basically have to go up against 20 of the top 100 players in the world.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I hate qualifiers for GMC and MVP. I think it waters it down. It makes no sense. It makes it to where, I don't know. I don't know why you have a playoff system of where you have to do stuff to get into it. And then it's like, oh, well, if you actually didn't do it, you can still qualify into it. Makes absolutely no sense.
No, I don't get it. I would like to understand their line of thinking. I think their line of thinking, this obviously is just me assuming. I'd like to talk to someone and understand it. I think their line of thinking is like, oh, but we're taking these events away from the locals now, and the locals really want to play MVP, and when the Pro Tour comes to town, and we got to make a way for them. No. That's not what this is for. There's a playoff
play the week before.
Yeah, like if you like have
a tournament the week before.
Run a B tier 2 weeks from now. Who cares? Let the locals play then. The Pro Tour playoffs should be for play, because like what also could happen now is if I'm in 74th and I just didn't do it. I played GMC, didn't quite qualify for MVP at GMC. What's stopping me from showing up to this qualifier? My season should be over.
No, you are showing up.
Yeah.
Everyone is showing up. But your season should be over.
Yeah, but like so then what's the penalty for me? Because if I show up and I qualify, it's like, woo, all right, my season continues. I'm back at MVP now and I'm earning points. And I might be able to chase down the guy who's in 71st or 70th and jump him points wise. And now when I go to my sponsor at the end of the year, I'm like, I finished 69th. It's like, no, you didn't even make the last qualifying event. You shouldn't be at MVP. You shouldn't be getting points right now. You didn't do it. I don't understand. I'm hoping that it's just like a transition thing. And they're like, since this is the first year, some local pros are upset. Let's just do this, satisfy them this year. Next year, the hard cut. That's what I'm hoping will happen. But
also, why did they juice the numbers? I thought initially was GMC always 100?
I thought it was. I think it was originally 100 and then 80, but now it's 172 at the beginning of the season.
No, it's not 72. I think 88 people are going to be playing MVP.
72 was the cutoff on the registration, the top 72 in the Pro Tour standings. So that means that 16 people got in that shouldn't be there.
So Garrett is trying to qualify this morning, and it's again like this information. Who knows if it's right or whatnot? We just have to go off of what we're seeing on his register. So right now there are 65 people on the PDGA registration list for MVP.
Okay.
65. Now, if they let 7 people qualify, then that gives you that 72 number. But on his thing where he's like, I guess he has a separate thing because he's trying to qualify in, it says 65 out of 88.
Interesting.
Now I don't know if that's an error or if they are going to let in 23 more people. And my whole thing is if they let in 23 more people, now what's really the difference between 180? Like that number is so insignificant. 100 to 72 is a pretty good drop.
Yeah.
I think you could even go 64. I think you could even go 100 to 64.
I'd love to see it be cut there. I'd love to have seen GMC be 72, this be like 50, because realistically, like this is all leading up to Tour Championship. So what's the difference between playing like this weekend? Like the person in 70th place is not qualifying for the Tour Championship with this weekend. So they're there.
No, there's a bunch of people that have, there's a bunch of people that have it. And maybe that's something that they need to maybe look into a little bit. Obviously, this is all new stuff. Maybe that is something they need to look into of like figuring out where the numbers should go to where you, for most seasons, you have most of the field able to advance. If the last guy in, if he finished first place, he would accumulate enough points to advance to the next event. That would probably make the most sense. It doesn't really make sense to go into a playoff event knowing you have no shot. But at the same time, with how disc golf is, and this is where we can maybe talk about this now. Some people are talking about like especially like the top guys, right? They've come out and said like these playoff events mean nothing. Like I'm in 4th place, I'm in 5th place. I'm like locked in. I'm going to have a bye. So I just view this as a normal tournament. There's no real difference. But people like myself and maybe some more like Alden Harris, for example, like he had an incredible 2-day finish. He, I'm sure, jumped up a bunch of points or a bunch of spots to maybe now he is in a bye situation or could be in a bye situation after MVP. I think, too, as the field continues to get better and better, and as like the middle part of the field continues to get closer, like closing down the gap, because there is obviously a massive gap right now at the top with the top guys. And so you have people like Ricky, Paul, Calvin, Chris, you have those type of people that are constantly finishing so high up every week that the points they're accumulating, it ends up making it to where these playoff events really mean nothing to them. But if I told you when I first came in to the sport 2 years ago, and I told you like, I think in like 2 years, you're going to see people like Paul and Ricky like struggle to make cuts and, finish outside the top 40, you would laugh. Yeah. You would be like, no way. But like that's happened. And I think that trend is going to continue to happen more and more. Now, obviously, I don't think it's going to happen overnight. And all of a sudden, like these guys are going to be, they're still way better consistently too than most of the players in the field. But my point there being is you're going to have more of like Isaac Robinson's come around. Matty O. I mean, Matty O is another perfect example. Like you're having these guys that are like buffering now. So in the past where it would be those top 4 basically just interplacing, and I'm sure you and Trevor have probably dealt with this year when you guys were picking your top 3s. Like I'm pretty sure when you guys were doing grip locks and you were picking your top 3s a couple years ago, you were basically just like, all right, Paul, Ricky, and then maybe the third one you would switch out between Calvin.
It was just Paul, Ricky,
Chris,
Calvin, and Chris wasn't touring.
And then the next week you would go, okay, I think Ricky's going to win this week, and Calvin. And now I think it's much more difficult.
No, yeah,
right? You have a lot more players that could sneak in there. So I think the points will, like the way the playoff system's set up, it will work down the road. Yeah. It's just right now it doesn't make a lot of sense because certain players are just getting so ahead of everyone that it's like, well, what the heck? What do these playoffs really mean?
I still think if the final cut's 36, if that's the playoff cut that we're going with, 72 to 36 doesn't make sense to me. 100 to 72.
It's a big jump.
And then we go 72 to 36. That's where I'm thinking, like, if that's the path we're staying on, I like 72 to 50 or 48, whatever it would be, the number divided by 4, and then to 36. Because then it feels like everyone in the field has a shot.
72 to 50, you could make that jump.
Yeah, and then 50 to 36 or whatever, you could make that jump. 70 to 36, you're not going to make that jump. 100 to 72 is a tough jump.
Right now, you can get 125 points if you win.
Yes. And
the play-in right now is at 281 points. So 125 points, or that 281 minus 125 is roughly 160, around there.
Yeah.
And the person
that's assuming
that's
those people aren't getting any points.
And that's assuming, yeah. The person in 72 right now has 104.
Yeah, so even if they got no points, even if the people in the play-in event got no points, the person in 72nd can't make it. Even if they got 0 points, which they're showing up, they're not making 0 points.
50th has 203.
See, now that's interesting.
So 203, they could jump. Yeah. So I'm with you there. I think again, they're trying to work out the kinks and trying to figure it out. And I think also 72 to 36 or whatever it may be, when everyone starts touring more, like right now, you're getting more and more people touring at every event. I think, again, like, if you look at people's finishing too, not necessarily the top guys, you can look at the top guys a little bit, but I think it's easier to see more towards like the middle of the pack guys that are like 9th, 10th to like 15th in that range. James Conrad's a perfect example. If you look at like a James Conrad from like 2 years ago and see like where he's finishing, my guess is like he was always in top 20 and a lot of times in the top 10. And I bet if you look this year, I could be wrong, but my guess would be in this year he'd probably be slipping out of that a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And it's just simply like 1 stroke, 2 strokes now can literally jump you down 20 spots on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily the case. So, another thing I want to talk about is, what are your thoughts? I think we maybe have talked about this a little bit. What are your thoughts of having AMs playing at the playoff event? Like on Brewster. So like when we're on Fox Run, there's an AM tournament going on at Brewster.
That was going on. So like they're having GMC, just like a normal like
my caddy
or something.
My caddy ended up getting second at MA2. And we were trying to figure it out because obviously I played terrible round 2 and 3. And so I ended up sliding pretty far down the leaderboard to where I was the first tee time on Sunday. And so he was like, hey, this hasn't been an issue because you've had late tee times, but my tee time and your tee time now kind of coincide a little bit. So, yeah, there was 100% AM tournament going on. Now, before you say anything, because I know you're probably going to hate it, I'll actually have an opinion that you probably didn't think. I actually think it's a good idea.
Fascinating.
And this is why. That final round at GMC gets way, way less interesting to watch live if the crowd was like Emporia.
But the only reason you have that take, though, is because you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yes,
because like why. That's like DDO.
That is why.
DDO.
My caddy is not driving down to watch the final round from me.
No, absolutely
He's not.
Yeah.
But he's driving down because he's playing in this tournament at these courses, and then he gets to watch as well.
That's why it exists.
So that's my take. I think it has to exist right now for that reason.
Well, that's why it exists.
I don't think you get any spectators.
Same thing with Ledgestone. Same thing with DDO. Like these tournaments aren't getting nearly like. That's why DDO. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know if this is true. It wouldn't surprise me if DDO had more spectators final day than Worlds. Because there was a full AM tournament going on. And so their families, their buddies, whatever, are all able to watch it. I don't like it just because
DDO, the fairway, the left side fairway at DDO, if I remember correctly, was filled with spectators, like all the way down to where your drives were, and it was a couple people deep.
Yeah.
I didn't see any crowds like that at Worlds.
Yeah, Worlds, the final day was still busy. It was still a lot of people, but
yeah, there was still
compared
people.
to DD, I would have to look at the footage to know for sure. Just my gut would.
We're also talking about the world We're also talking about the world championship, where my guess would be like that would be an elevated.
Yeah, if it was within
travel.
If a pro tour was in Charlotte, like the tour championship, I'm considering going. If the world championship was in Charlotte, I'm going.
Correct.
And I feel like
exactly
that's how most
point.
people would think about it.
Correct.
But the reason I don't like it is practice days. AMs are trying to practice for their event at the same time pros are trying to practice at the same courses a lot of times. So
that's what we were dealing with.
Yeah, so the courses are busier, and no offense to people playing MA2, you don't like a pro's trying to play for their livelihood. You don't need to be, trying all these. And then also you have a weird thing of like, hey, can we play through? And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm such a huge fan. And it's like, I'm trying to play a practice round. Like, this is my job. So AM shouldn't be out there.
Here's the thing. I don't think that's a big deal, right? Because I think eventually I would love to have spectators out at practice rounds. Because I think that's
but you're not playing through spectators.
I know. But I'm saying like I don't mind when like someone, even if I am playing through someone, I don't mind when they're like, hey, can you sign this? Hey, can you take a picture? Because I think that's going to happen at practice rounds. I think that's fine. I think the issue though, and this will sometimes happen, is like there will be a one sum or a two sum behind you, and they're AMs practicing, and you're like, hey, you guys can play through. You're playing faster than us. Go ahead. And they're like, oh no, we're enjoying watching. And what ends up happening now is like that faster group should play through you to kind of keep the flow going at the course. But now you're essentially now going to slow down everyone behind.
Yeah. Because no one's going to play through
now
them.
You have two people. Correct. And so there's certain things like that. Now, again, these are practice rounds, whatever, who cares? Boo-hoo. You guys have to stay out there a little longer. But these are all things to take into account. But I'm all for it. I think it makes sense if I was running a tournament. Let me turn this light out real quick. Hold on. This light is bugging me. That's better. If I was running a tournament, I would do the same exact thing.
But it also logistically spreads tournaments more thin because now you have a whole nother thing going on. So you're dedicating more staff, more volunteers, stuff like that could be dedicated just to the pro tour. It's not ideal.
It's not ideal, but I think it's the only way to get bigger spectators out of the course.
I don't like it. I don't like it. I understand it. I don't like it.
Okay. Now for my guess that rating. Okay.
Guess that rating. That's oh boy.
Hold on, let me pull it up real quick.
Is this from from GMC?
Yeah.
I haven't looked at ratings. I looked at ratings in FPO because we were curious what Page averaged. Didn't look at. We did that on Grip Locked. I didn't look at ratings for MPO.
Are you? Okay, here we go. Let me set the stage for you first. This is round one, Brewster. Okay. This is FPO.
Okay.
Which I believe played. I don't know how many feet shorter, but I would say there was at least 5 or 6 tee pads that were shorter. Okay. Some holes 100 feet closer to or 100 feet shorter than the other. I want to say there was 8 tee pads. I could be wrong. Okay, so different layouts.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
If a 53, or sorry, a 58, a 58 on day one. Shot by Nicholas Antilla was 10-14 rated. Okay. What do you think Henna Blomroos's hot round 58 was on FPO?
So his was 10-14 rated?
His was 10-14.
I'm going to say hers was 10-25.
10-21.
I was close. You
were close. So this is my quick thing because I haven't had one in a while. Ratings are stupid.
Yes.
Because in this situation, a course that played from 8 shorter tee pads or 5 shorter tee pads played a stroke harder. The FPO layout was a stroke more. The FPO layout was 1 stroke harder than the longer MPO layout. Same par. Obviously, I both said 58, so that doesn't matter. So yes, ratings are stupid. Just want to make sure we are all on the same page.
There's
for
your weekly
that.
update on ratings.
For the pros,
That is
again, let me preface this. Ratings are stupid for pros. Let me preface this. Ratings are stupid for pros.
You sounded like the guy at Disney where it's like, please keep your hands and feet inside the ride at all times.
Just got to keep everyone on check there, because it's been a while since I've had like a ratings rant.
Yeah,
and I feel like they're starting to get a little bit more steam, of where some people are starting to talk about them. I definitely have seen that, where like, oh my God, she averaged a rating of blah 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 this tournament. That's insane. It's like, can we just talk that she just beat everyone by 15 strokes and not do the ratings thing? Because again, like I said, a layout. In this scenario right now, if you were an AM and you're like, hey, man, I'm trying to get to 1,000, what should I do? I would say go play the FPO layout, because if you shot the same score on the FPO layout as you did on the MPO layout, you would have a higher rating on the FPO layout. So, all right. Don't know if you saw. Also, I don't know if I told you this. This was the crazy thing.
Okay.
So I was obviously playing really, really bad. I played really bad on my front nine on the second round. Got it a little bit better on the back nine. Shot 5 under on the back, which is a decent back nine. Back nine's way easier, way more scoreable, but still decent. Brewster, I think if you would have – this is the best way to explain it. I think if you would have taken my tee shots at Brewster, I think you would have shot like 15 or 20 over par. I scrambled my absolute butt off to shoot that 1 under at Brewster. I legitimately through like 2 or 3 drives or 2 or 3 holes, I think I had birdie putts inside a circle. And then maybe I don't even think I actually had a birdie putt inside a circle too. I hit no gaps. It was the most stressful round ever, because every hole you're just like walking to your disc being like, oh my gosh, okay, I got to scramble again, got to figure it out. So I get to hole 17. I don't really check scores when I'm playing, unless it actually is like matters, right? So my in this situation, my strategy for how I'm playing was not going to change on any of these holes based off where I was. So I get to hole 17. And I'm like, let's just see how far I've fallen down the leaderboard. Because I believe, even though I did have a bad round 2, I believe I still was like pretty far up the leaderboard going into round 3. Well, I check. I'm in a tie for 41st, I believe, which is the cut line.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's basically 39 plus ties advance. And there was a big gap, or not big gap, but there was a lot of people at 41 or like at that spot. So it was going to allow all those people to kind of go in. And I'm like, I told my caddy, I'm like, oh my God, dude, we have 2 holes to play. Like, I need to like do something to make this cut. Now, granted, there wasn't really that many people on the course, obviously, because no one else was playing as bad as I was, that could like jump me to where I could potentially get out of the cut. But it was a situation where it's like, if I bogey one of these holes coming in, I'm not playing tomorrow. I'm not playing tomorrow. After starting, tied for 7th after round 1, that would be pretty devastating. So I end up parring hole 17, and then I end up birding hole 18 to basically solidify myself. And I'm like, all right, sweet, I'm in. Well, I didn't know that Colton also was on the course and was kind of in the same situation as me, of where he did the same exact thing, of where he birdied, I believe, 18 as well. And so what ended up happening is we were about to bring all these people in at 11 under. I think there was like 7 or 8 of us. We were going to bring all these people at 11 under in to Sunday. Yeah. But by me and him both birding, it basically then made the cut 12 under.
Pushed them all
out.
And
so all those people that were 11 got pushed out. And so now there was only 39 people going on versus I think there was going to be like 45 or something. Jeez. With that being said, me, Colton, and Corey now are playing in a threesome on Sunday. Well, we look at the weather and we're like, we tee off at 12 o'clock. We look at the weather and we're like, guys, it's supposed to start dumping at 1:45. So I look at them all. I look at all of them on the putting green. And I'm like, are you guys down to play fast? Because I was like, I think if we play fast, I think like we could get out of here and maybe miss the rain. And they're like, yeah, we're down. So all we did, and this is where I kind of want to branch into a little bit. All we literally did, not only did we play in a threesome, which already right there, I think shaves off. If no one does anything differently, I think in a threesome, I think that already shaves off 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, it shaves off a decent bit, yeah.
All we did was just walked with purpose in between our shots and walked with purpose in between holes.
Yeah.
That's all we did. We didn't do anything different. And we finished in like an hour and 40 minutes.
Daggone.
And looking at my rounds out there, round 1 at Fox Meadow, which everyone pretty actually played. Everyone shredded. Like Adam shot 9 under, Andrew Marweed shot 4, I shot 3. Well, we didn't. Me and Scott didn't shred, but I shot 3 and Scott shot 1. We all played good. It wasn't like someone was blowing up. That round took 2 hours and 55 minutes, so just under 3 hours. The threesome that me and Colton played in, we played in an hour and 45 minutes.
Wow, so it took a little over an hour off.
A little over, like an hour and 10 minutes. We played fast.
That's wild.
So, why are we playing in foursomes? That is the debate topic. Why are we doing that? Especially when we have a cut and we have 39 people in the field. That was 10 cards. We had 10 cards.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe we had 11. Because 10 would be 40 people. So maybe we had 11 cards because they made us 3 or something. I don't know. But we had, or would it be 9 cards?
It would have been 9 cards of 4, 1 card of 3.
1 card, yeah. So 10 cards.
10 cards total.
So like, why are we not in that situation? Why aren't we just doing 3 cards and having what would be like 12, 13 cards of 3?
Be 13, yeah.
Yeah, 13 cards of 3. Like, what are we doing?
I don't know.
What are we doing?
A lot faster. I think it comes down to coverage. I think that's the only answer. Is the way disc golf's covered right now.
That is the answer. That is the answer, and I forgot. That is the answer. I forgot about it, and it just pained me there realizing that's why. All right.
In the future, though,
I'll keep dreaming. It was so glorious. I'm just saying, it was so nice. And I'm sure like the spectators too loved it too, because there wasn't like, it was just action packed. It felt like we were doing something versus just standing around.
Yeah.
I've got more stuff. Do you have anything else to talk about?
I got some
more
stuff about
topics.
MVP. I was going to ask you about.
Okay, let's save that for the end. Okay, PDGA number. Can we come up with a better? Can we come up with a better rule? And that's not because every single time I finish good in a tournament or finish well after round 1, I'm just launched down the leaderboard because my PDGA number is so high. But can we come up with a better system after round 1 of setting people up?
I mean, the only other system would just be random.
I'm all for it. I love it. I don't think
either random or like based on tee times.
I just don't think you signing your kid up when they're born should impact their career in disc golf.
Yeah. Maybe I should sign Luke up. Make sure he gets.
You should. What the heck is wrong with you?
Tiebreakers.
Yeah, because here's my thing. Like, I'm not just saying this because it's like, oh, I want to be on coverage. I don't need to be on coverage. I like being on coverage. I don't need to be on coverage. But what about the new players coming in that do need to be on coverage more? Yeah. Like, they just have such a harder chance getting on coverage when. If they're in a tie for 3rd or 4th or whatever it is, they're just launched down to the bottom.
Getting bumped.
So it would be nice for a little bit more of a.
Well, I don't even know.
That could
do you know how Simon has such a low PDGA number?
What does that
So
mean?
Simon's PDGA number is really low. I forget what it is. But essentially what the PDGA did, I'd have to look up why.
He probably just got signed. He probably just got signed
They
up.
saved
really
they
early,
saved
right?
numbers for the Europeans back in the day. So for some reason they set aside a group of numbers. So as European players signed up, they got this group of numbers. So when Simon signed up, he was signing up the same time as players over here were getting, like, I want to say it was like the 20,000s. He signed up early still, but like 15,000 or something. But he has, let me look up his PDGA number. His numbers,
he has a really low.
Low.
I just thought he got signed up when he was a baby. Like
he did get signed up when he was a kid, so he still would have had a low number for today's day and age.
Oh, but you're saying like numbers if you were in the United States were way higher
he's
than the number he got.
8332, and he's been a PDGA member since 2005. Let me find someone. Let me see when Paul was a PDGA member.
Oh, so you're just saying like they kind of had these sneaky numbers.
They saved these numbers for Europeans because Paul's Paul signed up in 2005, and Paul's numbers 27523. So 20,000.
So like 20,000.
So if Paul and Simon are in a tie, the only reason Simon gets the break is because he is a European. They signed up at the same time, essentially.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk. Let's quickly talk about a conversation that me and Ezra were having. What is your thoughts on the Disc Golf Pro Tour playoffs courses? Because right now, across the season, the majority of courses in the beginning of the season, you would consider those like on golf courses, longer courses, right? Like the Jonesboroughs, those type of things. Then late in the season, we get more into the woods, right? And then in the playoffs, heavily wooded, right? So like you have Brewster, for example, but you also have Fox Run, so that's whatever. But then you go to Maple Hill, and obviously we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but like Maple Hill's a very difficult wooded course. And then you go to what was Hornets Nest, and now is going to be, is it Nevins or Devins?
Nevin, with an N.
Nevin, and you guys have played there. Would you consider that a wooded course?
Yeah. It has some open holes, but it's a wooded course.
What are your thoughts on that, of where like the playoff system basically is now just kind of the course is kind of shy towards that one style, and kind of going back to it too, like a lot of these holes don't necessarily require you to have to throw like a 900 feet in two shots, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely.
There's not a lot of
because I think they were probably
something to think about.
They were probably looking at it more like A, scheduling wise, is where it always comes. B, GMC and MVP are two of the like more. I'll put them up there with
Premier.
like Ledgestone, where they're like the top tier pro tournaments. So it made sense to elevate those, and how it went. They're right next to each other. Logistically, everything made sense. Tournament prestige wise, everything makes sense. But it is a great point where, like, if I'm someone who I was able to get towards the cut line and get my points, my bread and butter on the more open style courses in the earlier season, even like the Jonesboroughs, Waco, where some have some woods.
OTB.
Yeah, I get my points there. And then as it gets to the woods, I struggle. I'm a fall out of contention. We were looking, Luke Humphreys is possibly not making the playoffs after his incredible start.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a couple top 5 finishes.
Yeah, he went like
right?
4th at Vegas, 2nd at Waco, or something like that. Like he started off really hot, and now he might not make the cut. I'm not saying that's due to the course change, but someone like him,
because Waco's wooded.
Someone like him, though, in his similar situation, if he was just someone who just sucked in the woods, he could get to the end and be like, "Man, I had a good season. These courses just don't play to my game, and I got screwed. I just finished bad." That's a good point. Something to consider.
Maple Hill, we'll talk about the courses, I'm sure, the course here in a second, but Maple Hill does have a couple holes that are obviously a little bit on the advantageous side for those that can throw far.
Yeah.
But like Fox Run maybe had a handful, and then Brewster had 0. So, and then I don't know about the Tour Championship course. You guys would know.
I don't know, because they're changing it so much for the tour coming
Oh,
in.
they are end up
Yeah,
changing
they're
it. So
adding
maybe they
like
are.
6 or
Maybe
7
they are.
T pads in and doing stuff to
So
fairways.
maybe they are boosting it and stuff. I would love to see that because I do think, again, this isn't me saying like I just want courses to be super long and bombers and yada. I'm just saying like I think there is a skill level in learning how to throw far and learning how to throw accurately. And I'm not saying 500 plus feet. I'm just saying 450 for a par 4. Like it's hard to find those towards the end of the season of where you're having to throw 2 big shots. A lot of Fox run holes, which I like, but a lot of them were placement and then a big shot, or a big shot and then a placement shot. Other than hole 8's one of the best holes on tour, I think.
Yeah.
We need to make a trip. That's another one. Like you don't hear me say this that often with Foundation because I don't like spending money, but that's a trip that we need to do. We need to go up to GMC.
How far is the drive from GMC to Maple
Hill?
Hill?
Those courses. Not far at all.
A few hours.
I think we do both.
Yeah.
I think we fly into Burlington, play at Smugs, those 2 courses, drive down to Maple Hill, hit that course up. Maybe there is another cool course in the area, and then fly out of Boston back.
Yeah. I've heard.
That's
I think,
a trip that needs to.
Pyramids is pretty cool in that area. We definitely.
It's right across the street.
We want to do.
From Maple Hill.
We definitely want to do a Bogey Bro battle at both of those courses next year. That's definitely something we want to do because Maple Hill is a dream.
Well, you need to schedule. You got to schedule that to where I can actually go.
Okay. Well, we'll plan that this off season. We'll look through it.
Okay. We already talked about making the playoffs more exciting because I think some people were saying like calling them playoffs not that exciting right now.
Well, I think part of it is
players at the top have so many points. Yeah, I think that just gets more exciting when the points are spread out.
Well, also, I think commentary and the media focus needs to be on the cut line a lot more between events.
Yeah. Who's not well, but then that's also you got to take out the qualifiers.
Yes.
Because then you can really say like this guy right now is fighting to try to get in.
I'm really
that's
hoping
something that they should have
highlighted MVP because MVP it is the cut, the play-in event. That's it. There is no qualifier. If you get there's like Eagle won a major, so he could play in the play-in event. I don't think he's showing up. There's like those type of things, but there is a hard cut of like 36 and 16 for FPO. Or 18, 16, I think. That's what I would like to see. Is like at MVP, I want to see every round fluctuating. Like, hey, as of right now, Brodie Smith has made it into.
They are doing that on UDisc,
yes,
but I just don't think they were incorporating that into the.
I want to see that like heavily focused. Like it might be mentioned here and there. I would love to see that like throughout the round. That's like a storyline we're following, and we cut over, and there's a camera on card 17. It's like, hey, final round, this guy's in 40th place. But if he goes birdie here, he could still make this jump.
Tour championship.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think that gives as a fan, that would give the playoffs more of a feel. Because like I understand that's going on, but if I'm not looking for it myself, if I'm a casual fan, I might be like, this is another tournament. Like Paul's not going to miss the cut because he places bad at MVP.
Yeah. Speaking of cut, last week's GMC tournament the hardest cut to make in the history of disc golf?
It had to be. It was. We were talking about that on Grip Locked. It was a pretty wild cut. Well, I mean, not like percentage wise, but where the scores were. It was pretty surprising because you maybe not playing them, watching the courses, you would think there would have been more separation than there ended up being overall. If that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Well, like
separation at the top or separation in the cut?
Like how far
there was a lot of separation between.
Like you had
could drop a lot. What are you talking about?
That was the saying. There's not that much separation for you to be able to drop that much.
There was a lot of. I'm saying, one stroke out there meant a lot because you would drop a crap ton of spots on the leaderboard. What are you saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like to me, that's.
You don't like that.
I know. I like it. I just would have thought that wasn't how it was going to play.
Oh, yeah. I think just with the middle of the pack, it's always going to be like that.
Yeah, just like jumbled up.
Because you just have so many people that are going to have some people are going to have 3 average rounds. Some people are going to have, like myself, 1 really good round, 2 bad rounds. Some people are going to have 2 really good rounds and a really, really bad round. And all those people's scores are going to be the same.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Because there's just so many people that can shoot in that kind of range. But these courses did have score separation. And that's why you saw, like, lead card, for example. Like, if you look at how lead card shot the final day versus how chase card shot the final day, it was drastically different.
Well, also, Chris was able to make up 6 strokes in like 4 holes.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, some of it was just a really bad break via Ricky. But
before we go into that, because I did listen to Grip Lock this week, and I heard some of you guys what you guys were talking about, and I kind of want to give a little my opinion on some of those situations. The last thing, have you guys been talking about the drone shots and catch cam that much?
Catch cam, no. Drone shots we've brought up a few times, yeah.
Okay. Yesterday we played in the worst fog I've ever played disc. I don't think I've played disc golf in fog.
Yeah.
But this also might have been some of the worst fog I've ever played any athletic sport in. And it honestly took a lot of enjoyment out of playing because you just could not see the disc fly.
See where it was, yeah.
And so it just wasn't as enjoyable as being able to really watch the disc fly. And this made me start to think, first off, drone shots, cutting to drone shots in the middle of a flight is potentially the worst thing you could do. But I'm now thinking that cutting to the catch cam is almost as bad.
It depends on the hole, yeah.
It's not as bad, but it's almost as bad because I lose and I watch live coverage, like whenever they cut to the catch cam on a big drive or whatever, I completely lose all sense of where the disc is in relation to the hole.
Yes.
I lose all sense of like where, like, is it turning still? Is it coming out? I lose all sense of that. My question is, why don't they just hold the shot behind the throw? Whoever throws it, hold the shot behind all the way until you cannot see it anymore. So if it goes around a corner, then obviously go to the catch cam and pick it up. If it goes behind a tree and you can't see it behind a tree line anymore, pick it up. If it goes over a hill and you can't see it, pick it up. But like hole 1 at Maple Hill, everyone's pretty aware of that hole. I don't think you should switch to the catch cam ever.
I think you switch.
I think it should literally
hits the ground.
Hits the ground.
Yeah.
Yes, hits the ground when the flight is done. Like watching it fly the whole way from one perspective is the coolest shot in disc golf. And that's why shots that go viral on social media in disc golf are camera shots. People with their phones just right behind, zooming in and showing the flight the whole way. I think this is something that could drastically change the viewing experience, because I think then you can go back and show the drone replay because you already now have an idea of how the shot was. Show the drone replay and show that cool angle of it going that way. Or certain shots might look really like you're seeing 4 shots the same exact way on Maple Hill hole 1, right? Over the water, over the water, over the water, over the water. Why not go like the first 2 behind as soon as it lands, catch cam to kind of show like, oh, it just scurried and skipped over here. Okay, that's where it ends up. And then maybe hole 3, go from catch cam the whole way. Have them zoom all the way in, throw, and then zoom out and have that cool thing of where now you're seeing the flight come towards you. Change it up a little bit. But I just don't think the play is, and this all kind of just spurred on me when we were playing in the fog yesterday, is like not being able to see the disc fly the entire time is like a huge bummer and letdown. Yeah. And I think we're missing that when we switch to catch cams, especially when we switch to the drone shots. I absolutely despise that, and I don't know who likes that. If you do, you're a psychopath.
The only drone shots
I can't see.
The only drone shots I've liked have been on like really open courses where it's just been stationary and you see the entire flight from the drone shot. Because sometimes that'll give you a cool.
I still think that should be a.
I
still think that should be a replay.
Replay is great too.
I think that should be a replay.
Replay is great too.
I don't think that should be the shot.
But if we're mid-flight and you cut to anything, it's very disorienting. It's very hard to tell unless it's something where it's like, oh, the disc is gone. I can't see it anymore. Then catch cam.
Yes.
If the disc is mid-flight and we're in a wide open field, and you cut, it takes me a solid like 4 or 5 seconds to recognize what's going on, and then the disc is on the ground. So the shot just doesn't seem impressive because you also have no idea how far down the catch cam is.
How far?
Yeah. So
yeah,
like
how far it is.
if
yeah.
you could throw 600 feet out in this field and the catch cam's 800 feet away, but from the tee, I have no idea where the catch cam is, and we cut when you're 300 feet off the tee, to me, it looks like you might have thrown 400 feet. Whereas if you stay on the tee, I could be like, holy cow, that thing's going forever. Yep. Yeah, I think that's part of why right now watching disc golf in person is so exciting is you see it from that
so
perspective.
Much better.
And that's something that the camera, like the cutting, it's not necessarily the camera because the camera crew is doing great. The cutting could do just slightly better to where you get the perspective like you're there, right?
Adding miles per hour too on drives would be a huge benefit too.
Yeah.
Like just having someone out there with a gun that just like has a mic or something to production to be like 83, 89, and like being able to throw that on the screen and stuff. Because I know who did was it Gatekeeper that did Goat Hill?
Probably Central
or GK
Central
Pro.
Coast. They do that every time.
Central Coast. And like when I was watching coverage of that, like post round obviously because it wasn't live, like that was so cool to see. Like, wow, like this person threw the same speed, but this other person's their shot went an extra 50 feet.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it's cool to see that. So all right, enough with coverage and that. Let's talk about the umbrella situation because I'm sure you guys obviously talked about it on Grip Locked. People have been talking about it all over the place. This is something that has been an issue for far too long. You can go back to the dog situation with Paul's drive at, was it the Tour Championship? I think it was. Where
also Maple Hill last year, either Paul or Ricky, might have even been Chris, that downhill par 3 hit the cameraman's monopod and stayed in.
Yep. I was going to say that too. These camera guys that are like setting up in the course of play that are saving shots. You see that so much on putts too, where a putt will skip off the top of a basket and go right behind, right where a camera guy is. And the camera guy is basically keeping that disc in play. We've seen water coolers at like Waco where people are throwing over the road and trying to play for the skip in. You see that all the time too on some holes where the play is to throw it wide and have it come in, and then like all the fans are scattering. And these are not shanks. That is what I want to say at the end of the day. These are not shank shots. Like Ricky's shot, granted it wasn't a good shot. It wasn't where he was planning on throwing, but it was not a shank. It was inbounds 99% of the flight. Like that is the play. The play is to go on the backside because the backside of that hole, you have no trees to contend with. And then also if you do play that hole where you're like trying to hyzer in, it can hit those trees, drop, and then roll OB. So the play is to do exactly what Ricky was trying to do, go backside, skip up the hill, have an open 25-footer. Now, obviously he missed his line by 10, 15 feet to the right, but this is another thing of like, why do we have people so close?
Yeah.
You can, like when I go, I'm going to go to golf real quick. I'm going to go to tennis. I'm going to go to basketball. I'm going to go to football. I'm going to go to any sport. You are so far away from these other sports, so far in relation to how close you are in disc golf, and you can still see what's going on. Disc golf is a sport that you can actually be really far away and still get a sense of what's going on. We do want to get as close as possible. I understand that. We got to stop having things in the field of play, and we got to stop having spectators or cameramen or anything in spots where discs are going to be flying. Like we know certain holes, the play is to throw the hyzer skip from OB in. Why are we allowing spectators to be over in that area? Because now what ends up happening is you get lead car to show up where there actually are spectators, and now you have to get someone to be like, all right, everyone move back. We saw that at Worlds, right? Hole 16. 15, 14, 13. Hole 13 at Worlds is that like flex line over OB, over the sidewalk, coming back in. And you had to see like all those spectators get pushed back. Like these are just things that we should know are going to happen on certain holes. And again, you can't blame the spectators. If you have lines up set up for where they can go, that is where they're going to go.
They're going to go as close as they can get. Because why
I would do the same thing.
That's what I do. And
I would do the same thing.
I'm as close as I can get. If you're going to let me stand in the fairway, I'm going to be in the fairway to watch this shot.
Correct. And again, this goes. I'm gonna blame the camera guys too. Like we need to be. These cameras have zoom for a reason. Get OB. Get 5 feet OB. So and obviously some holes it's not going to work. But a lot of these holes you can get 5 feet OB and just zoom in a little bit more and get the same exact shot. And now we don't have this situation of like, oh man, that cameraman just saved that guy's putt. It was definitely going OB, but
we also don't have the weird thing of like Jomez for a long time. It was a running thing of like Mike was the catch cam guy. He now is an editor, but he was a catch cam guy, and he did not get hit by a disc. But there was multiple times where like that was like his shtick. It's like the disc would be flying and he would dodge it all the time. And it's like I don't really know if that's a good thing to be known by. It's like
no,
maybe you're
probably in the wrong
spot if you're having to dodge disc left and right, and that's like what we know you for.
Yeah, that's my take on it. Like obviously the umbrella situation is a wild one because like you could have easily put the umbrella on top of the OB stake or whatever from out of bounds, but they decided to go from inbounds, which is a dark horse move for sure. That being said, Ricky's shot was 100% going to go OB. There's no way that's going inbounds if it doesn't hit the umbrella. Thankfully, it turned out the way it did because had he won, like had he jammed that putt for par or for birdie and like goes on to win by like 4 or 5, there's going to be tons of people saying what ifs. I think it was a good thing that he ended up like doubling that hole as unlucky as it was. Because now you don't have anyone talking about it.
Yeah, at this point, I think the umbrella cost him
in the
strokes.
sense of like Ricky won by that.
Yeah, because I think the umbrella cost him strokes at this point.
I think he would have made the putt. Had he went OB. I think he would have been super
even if he went
frustrated.
OB, missed the putt, he would have probably made the tap in and taken a bogey instead of a double.
Just in that situation, it's like him for whatever reason. I just have that feeling of like he goes OB on the hole.
Oh yeah, I agree.
That's a birdie hole. He like is so frustrated. He's like, I'm just gonna freaking jam the crap out of this putt. Yeah. Similar to like when Paul misses like airballs a putt and has like a circle 2 putt coming back. He like doesn't take any time and just jams it.
Yeah.
Like that was the vibe I would have gotten with Ricky there. But yeah, I mean it's a crazy situation, and it's one that again I think it was looked on as funny, like seeing spectators like, oh, get out of the way, watch out, oh, it's gonna hit. Like that was like a funny thing back in the day. It's not really funny anymore. And also it's kind of dangerous. Like that's the other thing. It's kind of dangerous. Like if you have a kid or something with you and like a disc skips up and like drills them in the, like, well, we should just avoid this at all costs.
Do you remember this guy was a spotter. He was in the fairway because he was supposed to be. It was unfortunate, but
Ricky got hit.
Ricky hit the guy.
Ricky
hit the guy. Yeah. Like if that was a spectator who wasn't a part of the tournament, wasn't like that dude, that thing hurt. It sounded like a gunshot when it hit his head. Like, and that's something that like that's not unrealistic to think that could happen to a spectator.
Yeah, we should put people in spots where we know discs aren't going to be flying over their heads. Okay. Last thing I have, and then we can talk about MVP. Your guys' take on the layup on hole 17 was atrocious.
Oh, boy. Which one? Ricky or Chris?
Both.
No, why? Okay, explain it to me.
The play for both of them there is 100% layup. No
Ricky,
chance.
I agree. Chris, I disagree. I think that lost in the tournament.
Okay, 50-footer. Okay, and this is the other thing. This is where we need camera angles. We need camera angles because you as a casual, okay, because that's what I'm going to call you because this take is a casual take. sitting at home on your comfy couch,
exactly where I was,
looking at this, are going like, where the heck, what? You're not trying to win this tournament? Because, and Trevor can get in here too, because his take was just as bad. So if he wants to come and try to defend himself, that's fine. You guys do not get to see the context. You don't get any context because they only film from behind. I don't know why they're only filming, and they're also zooming in. Like, I can easily make a 30-footer look so far on my camera just by the camera angle. And I can also make a 40-footer look super close by my camera on the camera angle. Guess what? That was a trick of the trade when doing trick shots. I always wanted to make shots look farther, as far as possible, even though they necessarily weren't that far. Trick of the trade. They needed to show a side profile of that shot. They needed to show you from 100 feet away, looking side, and you could see Chris is up here, and the you can see Chris is up here, and the basket is down here, and the OB is down here. To where you're now thinking, okay, first off, this is not 41 feet. I have no idea how that number, why that number is getting spewed out. It was 50 feet at least. Might be even further than 50 feet. If he misses anything, if it doesn't hit anything, it is OB, and now he has a putt from down here to an elevated basket up here, 33 feet away, 34 feet away for par. Or no, for bogey. The tournament's over. He lost. The tournament's over.
Laying up, though, took his foot off the gas. That was the tournament was over. Because he was betting on himself going into 18. You just had the...
He misses that putt more than makes that putt.
You just had a break of a lifetime to even be in a position to have that putt to make. Your opponent lays up. You now have a shot to have a one-stroke cushion.
But he doesn't win
into that.
He doesn't win the tournament if he makes that. He doesn't. He doesn't win the tournament if he makes that.
Because now going into 18, he has no pressure because Ricky's got a birdie. So now I'm in 18, I can miss left, and I can easily take the par all day, missing left. Now
he was trying to miss left.
On 18?
On 18. He talks about that. He talks about that. He literally
said to be aggressive on 18. He had to go for a birdie on 18 because he knew Ricky's behind him.
You don't have to be aggressive on. I don't know what this be aggressive means on 18. What does that mean? There is no layup on 18. He threw a
shot that was going to flip up somewhat. Right?
I think...
If that disc was not supposed to flip up at all, then that might have been the worst disc selection shot thrown of all time because that thing flipped to flattened road. That disc was clearly supposed to flip up.
I think... Well, first off, I was because I wanted to hear a little bit more about what he what he thought about it. So I did listen. He was on the Nick and Matt show, so I did listen to him talk about it a little bit. He thought the wind was right to left, is what he said. Now Isaac teed off 2 before him, and Isaac said that the wind was headwind. When we played the hole, the wind was headwind. The wind was always headwind when I played the hole. It was never right to left. It was always ahead. So there might have been some sort of miss-win calculation there that maybe he thought it was more of a right to left, and so his disc was going to kind of just continue to push versus it being ahead where it kind of flipped up more. But my regardless of how 18 pans out, my whole thing is like I want to be put in a position where I can still win the tournament. I can still win the tournament on 18. If I miss that putt on 17, even if I hit chains, right, there is a really high chance that I have like a really difficult like 30-footer uphill. And in that situation, it would be a tailwind putt, I think. Oh, no, it would be I'm trying to think. Hold on. I'm trying to think. It would be like a little left to right. It'd be a left to right, super uphill to an elevated basket, like 25-footer.
Okay. You're not thinking about missing, though. You can't be. You were just gifted that. You shouldn't even be in position there.
But what I'm saying is, like, aggressive. if
you got to stay aggressive.
The thing is like he is deciding on that putt right there. He is now deciding I am okay that if I miss this putt, I am going to lose this tournament.
That's not what he's thinking. He's thinking, I'm keeping my foot on.
No, I know.
Think of the momentum he would have carried into 18 if he would have banged that putt.
I think it's also a difference. If it's 40 feet, I don't think he's laying up. I don't think he's laying up if it's 41 feet.
50 feet, 40 feet with his step putt, I don't think it's a difference.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, 10 feet.
No, you're saying 10 feet. Oh my gosh, dude. Come on. 50 feet to 40 feet on a downhill like that?
With his step
with
putt
a little
in
wind,
that situation?
With a little wind?
I still run it. Of course you still run it. You have to run that. Laying
up
took all the pressure off Rick. Rick walked into 18 being like,
You know else would have taken all the pressure off of it? If you literally chucked it OB and got a double bogey.
Yeah, you can't be
and now
thinking
Ricky
about
has
that.
Now Ricky has a 2-shot lead going into 18.
When you are chasing someone down, you've caught them, and you have all the momentum, you can't be thinking about the worst case scenario.
Momentum is a bunch of
it is
BS.
Not. You know
Momentum is a bunch of BS.
Come on, Brodie.
Momentum is a bunch of BS.
Momentum is not BS. Momentum is one of the biggest things in sports. It's what gets you places. Like it's when a momentum shifts.
Oh, really?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so
that's momentum is one of the biggest things that brings comebacks back. That's the whole reason when you're watching basketball and someone gets momentum on their side, they're gonna.
Okay, well hold on. First off, team sports way different.
Not with momentum.
Way different.
Not with momentum. When you get the ball rolling, you feel you can't miss.
So when does a shift happen?
When Ricky rolled OB and Chris banged that putt, then you clearly have momentum because then the next 2 holes he gets 2 more strokes back. He went from being down like 4, he was down 5 to being tied in 3-hole span. That's a big shift in momentum. He bangs that to go up 1 on 17. If he hits it, Ricky's dead. It's over. There's no way. That's a huge... The momentum shift was Ricky's chain out that rolled OB. That was the momentum shift. Because before that, Chris was dead in the water. Chris had nothing. That happens. Momentum shifted. Now Chris has all the weight of the world behind him. He laid up and gave Ricky a glimpse of hope. That's what he did. And Ricky took it and won.
I don't know. I think... I just think momentum is an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing because yes, I obviously when you're playing well, you'll continue to play aggressive because you feel like you can't miss. Yes. I agree with you with that. But when you're at these guys' level, when you're at this level, you should always feel like you can make the next shot. You should always feel like you can make the next putt. So even though you see this sometimes with people of where they start, I mean, a perfect example is like look at where is it? Here he is. Look at Isaac Robinson's round, right? Perfect example. Bogey's the first hole. Hole 2, easy birdie, takes par. Hole 3, another birdieable hole, takes bogey. Hole 4, a birdieable hole, takes par. He's two over through the first 4. Off to a terrible start. Picks up 6, which is an automatic birdie hole. Everyone, I think 99.9% of the field birdied hole 6. So that doesn't even count. Doesn't get the birdie on hole 7, which is the par 5. Hole 8, very difficult. Then bogey's hole 9. He's sitting at 2 over through the front 9. Like that person in that situation in your momentum status, and this I do agree with you at a certain point because there are some people that have lower skill sets of where that at this point in time, Isaac would be going, you know what, today's not my day. I just can't do anything right. I can't throw. I suck today. Nothing I can do. Instead, Isaac knows that he's very good at disc golf and that his next shot has no, like what he's going to do next, what he did before has no implication on what he's going to do next.
But what happened?
And so what does he do?
He has one good shot, basically. Turns his round around, right? Then he was able to...
Well, hole 10...
Well,
he has one good shot? Like is that what happened?
All it takes is one good shot for someone like him to be like, all right, there it is. Now, boom, boom, boom. He ended up under par, didn't he? He was like in...
Well, yeah, he had 6. He bogeyed the final hole, but he had 6 birdies on
exactly. Because it takes one good shot. And it also takes one good shot to stop momentum. Ricky had momentum, hits the umbrella, chains out, rolls away, momentum stopped. Switches to Chris. Chris has momentum, lays up, momentum stopped. That's my problem, is his momentum just stopped and I lost in the tournament. If he bangs that, it's more so what it does to Ricky than what it did for Chris. laying up gives Ricky a glimpse of hope. Banging that putt deflates Ricky completely. Ricky goes into 18.
Well, yeah, obviously. Yeah. No, you can't say that.
Chris makes that putt, he does not lose.
You cannot say that.
I confidently say because it didn't happen. If Chris makes that putt, he doesn't lose.
So you're saying Ricky is that mentally weak that if
Chris
some guy gets
all the
one
momentum
stroke
on his side, and Ricky would have been like, "Dang,
everything's
going his way." He wouldn't think that in
his
head.
He would be thinking on hole 18, like, "Dang, I just lost the tournament."
He'd be going for
versus him thinking, "I have to birdie."
He'd be going for it, but Chris would have all the mojo.
I think he birdies 18. I think he birdies 18
too, because Chris would have still had all that momentum. He stopped his momentum.
I don't know. Chris has really struggled on hole 18.
If you're rolling down a hill,
statistics show
and you pump the brakes,
then
you're going to have to get back up to speed. If you never pump the brakes, you keep your foot on the gas, you're not going to get back up to speed. That was the whole problem.
I think we'll just have to agree to disagree here. I think it was the smart play by Chris. I think hole 18 is a tough birdie, and I think it's one of those where he, at that moment, that 50-footer, it was not like the risk of going for that putt. I don't think was worth it. Like if it was one of those situations where it was like on hole 18 of where it's like, if I make this putt, I win the tournament. Maybe I could see him getting aggressive there.
If that's 18 and that's the putt to win, you still think he lays that up?
I don't know. I would have to ask him.
No, you in that situation. Are you laying that putt up on 18? Same if 17 is 18,
me?
50-footer, your opponent just laid up saying, "I want you to make this putt to win." Are you laying up and being like, "You know what, let's just go to a playoff. I want extra holes," or are you running it?
What are the extra holes? I think that actually matters.
Well, we'll just call the playoff holes what they were. This light just went off on me. Which was like, 18? I think they were 18, 1 and 2. Was that the loop? I forget what they said. No, did they even say the playoff loop? I think they did.
I don't even know. The playoff loop would definitely matter, because if I felt like the person I was going up against had a clear advantage on the first playoff hole, I would probably make me more likely to run it. But in the situation here, it was not just a situation of like this was a situation, and I think people aren't understanding it. This was a situation. And this is what it would be like if it was hole 18. If I make the putt, I win the tournament. If I miss the putt, I lose the tournament. It was not. I do not think there was if I go for it and I miss, okay, I can go into the playoff.
There is that.
I don't think that was.
If you hit front cage,
it was so
small, but it's there.
It is there, but I'm just saying,
you're not
like,
thinking that though.
That's not what you should be thinking.
When I'm running the putt, I'm making the putt.
Correct. If it was a scenario where it's like, if I miss, we'll just go into a playoff, then yes, you're running it every time. But I think that's the problem, is like 60% of the misses on that putt with how windy it is. And also, if you do watch Chris putt steppers from 50 feet, his putt has a lot of movement. Also, another thing to consider too is Chris putts with – here's another thing I'm just going to throw in there. He putts with a very overstable putter, right? And so his putt, when it comes into the basket, is very different than, let's say, like an Eagles putt or a Simon's putt, right? Where it's much more spinnier and flatter. His putt digs into the basket from 50 feet, right?
Yeah.
And so now what you're doing is, because it's elevated and it's also – the basket's elevated and it's also on a hill, that putter is having way more time to get vertical before it hits the ground. And so it's almost going to be hitting the ground on like a roller angle already, instead of hitting the ground flat, like a Miss Simon putt or a Miss Eagle putt in that scenario. Does that make any more sense of why that putt is also a little more risky?
Yeah, but you're not thinking of any of that.
Because
you're not missing. That's the whole thing, is you're not missing that putt. Like, you're 7 over 17, and I'm not thinking once about the miss. Once you think about the miss, it's over. You might lay up.
Okay. All right. We agree to disagree. The last thing, let's agree on this.
Okay.
Was the 3 putts on hole 1 the most impressive sequence of putts on live coverage ever?
I wasn't watching hole 1 yet. I turned it on like 3 or 4 holes in.
So Ricky goes, no, it wasn't Ricky. Who was the first person? Oh, it was Paul. Because Paul wasn't on lead card, right? Paul was on Chase.
He was on Chase.
Yeah. So Paul goes OB early on his second shot on hole 1. Has like a 66, 70-footer to save par, cashes. Ricky and Isaac do the same exact thing as Paul. Go OB left early on their second shot. Basically from the same spot, 60, 66 feet. Back to back, cash.
Jeez.
Like they were all within like a 10-foot spot, draining like these 70-footers, all within a matter of 5 minutes from one
That's
another.
pretty crazy.
I think that was the most impressive putting in like that short span, other than maybe like the Gannon Burr experience at Vegas, where he just really could not miss inside 100 feet.
That's wild.
Yeah.
All right, well, MVP.
All right, MVP.
What are your thoughts on the course after playing it? Obviously, it was foggy, so you'll have different thoughts later. But first experience with it.
Don't hate me, Idlewild people.
Ooh.
Idlewild lovers, don't hate me. But it is a better Idlewild.
Okay, nice. Does it live up to the hype?
Yes.
Awesome. That's all I needed to hear. That's all, because I want to get out there because it's been hyped up for so many years to me, and I was scared of being disappointed.
If this was not a tournament, so Eagle Crossing, for example, right, had multiple tee pads.
Yeah.
Correct, I think, right?
Yeah.
When I was done playing Eagle Crossing, I was like, all right, cool, I'm done. MVP, if MVP wasn't this week, like if I wasn't like prepping for a tournament and I just came out here, I believe I probably would have run it back and played it at all the different tee pads.
Wow.
That's how good of a course it is.
That's awesome.
I went through it golds. I would have been like, oh, let me play the closer ones. Okay, let me play the closer ones. I would have probably just stayed out there all day playing all the different tee pads. Yeah, it's got exactly what you want for like what I would consider a combo course. A course that has wooded holes but also has open shots, has placement shots of where it's like, okay, you have to be very strategic and like making sure the landing zone is here, and then has shots of where it's like the further up you can get, great, but you still obviously have to throw it in bounds. It has everything. It has everything. The final stretch, because that's important, right? The final
Very
stretch
important.
is important.
18's a great finishing hole.
18's a great finishing hole. I only played the course once, so I kind of have to pull up my notes real quick to kind of remind myself what the final stretch is. Okay, 14, maybe one of the best water holes on tour. That's the one where you have to like throw it out over the water and then it comes in at the very end. Yep. 15 is kind of a whatever hole. It's just like I think it's just a straight shot. Straight wooded hole. 16 is the Kevin Jones ace hole. And then 17 is a good hole. Got OB on the left. Got a Balma drive out of the woods a little bit into a good little spot. Not a lot of OB around the green. I could see them maybe adding some OB around the green to make it a little bit more dicey coming into the ending there. But yeah, 18 is a phenomenal finishing hole. Phenomenal finishing hole. So all in all, yeah, I mean, definitely lives up to the hype. I wish it wasn't foggy, because the video that we're going to post, or I guess the video we posted today of us practicing at it, probably the worst condition, one of the worst conditions you could probably film in, because you can't see much. Excited to go back out there. By the time this goes up, I'll have already played it again, but excited to go back out there today and get another round in. But yeah, I mean, and we haven't even talked about if they're going to have a cut at this tournament, because then this would be the most difficult cut of all time.
Four rounds.
They're going to have
they should have a cut.
So this is the guy get top 30 to make the cut.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think of that, because the field's already so short.
It was top 39 at GMC. It's going to be like top 28 to make the cut.
Have you seen this $1 million shot they're doing out here?
Yeah, I think Ezra's in it, or close to being in it. This PPI situation, they decided to add another statistic that no one really understands or probably cares about, but
it's pretty interesting. So from what I understood, this is like kind of how golf's always done it, but it's like basically an insurance company It's almost like the roofing company that sponsored it is betting it's not going to happen with the insurance company.
Correct.
So the insurance company's like, yeah, just pay us X amount, and if it happens, we'll pay $1 million. Yeah.
If it doesn't, then we just keep your money.
Yeah, which is pretty sick. So
that's how it works.
Thursday, 8 men are going to throw a 600-foot hole from Maple Hill hole 1. If anyone, they'll have 3 shots each. If anyone makes it, they get $1 million. Friday, 8 women, 450 feet, 3 throws each. Anyone makes it, they get $1 million. Only thing I don't really know is in the weird chance that someone makes 2 or 2 different people made it, does everyone get $1 million?
Oh, do they split it or do they each get it?
Yeah, I don't know. Because they're betting A, it's not going to happen, which is a good bet. B, if it does, one person's going to do it. But like, what if like?
I think those odds are wrong.
Well, I do find it interesting. It's hole 1 because that makes 600 feet on hole 1.
It's not hard.
Super far. I mean, it's still you still have to throw it in for 600 feet, so it's still.
Well, yeah, but
it's
like,
not 600 feet flat ground.
It's not. I could like because the thing in golf, like if they're like, yeah, if you could make this 325-yard shot,
yeah,
you get $1 million. I'd be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. But like, how many? They each get how many throws? And how many people are in it?
8 men, 8 women.
Women's
450 feet, 3 throws each.
So 16 times 3, Brodie, is 54.
Yeah.
No, it's 58. 58. 16 times 3 is 58. 48. What?
48. I was going to say, because 54 is 18 times 3.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Wow. Way 48. Too early. 48. So 48 chances. I don't know how they got that. They have to be paying a lot of money because or this insurance company has no idea how easy disc golf is.
That's probably what's happening.
Because these odds are ridiculous.
Pretty good shot.
$1 million?
Pretty good shot.
See, like if it was 100,000, I'd be like, all right, that makes sense. But gosh,
it could happen.
Like how much money would you pay for 3 chances at $1 million from that distance? I feel like I'd pay a decent amount of money.
Me, that'd be a little far.
Maybe for the FPO distance. FPO distance. FPO. Yeah, FPO distance.
I'd probably, for 3 shots at it, man, I'd probably put up like $1,000.
That's way higher than I would have put.
Well, I mean, it'd be electric.
I'd probably do 100.
Okay. Either way. I was just thinking 450 for me.
Yeah,
450
No, 450 for you.
Because like to me, I'm thinking that's like a 300-foot shot. I could do it. Like it probably plays like 300 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, my point is I don't think I'm paying any money. I'd pay way less, obviously, if it was golf. If it was like, hey, you make a hole in 1, you get $1 million.
Yeah, I wouldn't even pay.
And they're like, how much you want to pay?
I would be like, if it's more than $1, I would pay $1 to have some fun. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know. That's wild. I didn't really think about that. That's a man. That could happen. That could happen.
It's immediately following the round coverage. They're just gonna stay live for it so that everyone can watch it.
Oh, that's sick. What day is that?
Thursday at 6 p.m. is the men, so tomorrow, and Friday 6 p.m. is the women.
Okay.
So people can just stay on Disc Golf Network, keep watching, and you'll see it happen.
I probably won't watch live because I'll probably be gone.
Well, the good news.
My guess is
the good news is if someone hits it, you will see it on social media. You'll see it all over the place.
Yeah. Dude, I have crazy bags under my eyes. These have been some long days here. Jeez Louise.
All right, well, we'll let you go. Just get back to the course, play it in no fog. I wonder if I'll be curious to see. Next week we'll have to remember to ask you.
It's probably harder.
Yeah, we'll have to remember to ask you
probably harder.
To change your lines. But when you could actually see.
Probably harder. Because even playing, obviously I had 1 bad round at Brewster, but my second round ever playing Brewster, I shot one of the best scores in the tournament. Yeah. And the question is that just because I don't know anything?
was that your superpower?
Right?
You didn't know the risk. It's like a kid who just doesn't know the danger. So he does something crazy because he just doesn't know what could have happened to him.
Exactly. Everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe he pulled that off. It's just like, what do you mean?
He doesn't know he's on the edge of a Grand Canyon. He's just doing a backflip.
Yeah, it's like if you would have messed up, dude, you're dead. It's like, oh. I don't know. Funny. We'll see.
All right. Well, be sure to tune into the coverage of the MVP Open that starts on Thursday. And hopefully you'll see Brodie on coverage at this weekend. And yeah, Brodie, hopefully this puts you inside that play-in event line where you officially make the.
Yeah, I need a good finish to get to qualify, and then make sure you guys have to come down to the Tour Championship.
I'm planning on coming at least the final day, so just make sure you're in the final day. Because if not, and
well, that would be
if
nice.
not, and I'm your ride back, you're gonna have to wait till the final day probably.
That's fine. Good. I'll find some good courses.
That's what I was telling Liz that, and I was like, if nothing else, he's got a YouTube channel, and he'll be in Charlotte. He can play a lot of disc golf. He'll be fine. So, all right. Well, hopefully you have a good tournament, and we'll talk to you.
Last thing, I forgot. Shout out to my caddy Spencer. Like I said before, MA2, second place. The funny thing, I forgot to say the story. Funny thing is, he thought he was going to catch up to us on hole 4, like he was doing the math. He caught up to us on hole 10.
How fast we're playing.
And then also shout out to Garrett, who unfortunately didn't make the cut, but jumped on my bag to help out since my caddy couldn't do it, and led me to moving up to a top 20 finish. Yeah. So going from last in to top 20, not terrible.
Pretty good final day, I'd say. All right.
We'll leave it at that.
We'll talk to you same time, same place next week.